The Velkari had a saying. The broken blade must be reforged or discarded. For Zarath, there would be no reforging. She felt the hands of her own blood, her father's calloused palms, her brother's trembling fingers as they carried her toward the Crimson River. The binary suns of Velkara Prime cast long shadows across the ceremonial stones, and Zarath could see everything, understand everything, but could do nothing to stop it. 3 months ago, the mining accident had severed her spinal cord. 3 months of lying in the family dwelling, her telepathic abilities intact but her body utterly still. The healers had examined her and declared the verdict irreparable. In Velkari culture, those who could not contribute were not kept as burdens. Forgive us, daughter, her mother whispered, antennae drooping in genuine sorrow. But the old ways must be honored. Zarath wanted to scream that she could still think, still feel, still dream. Her mind was a storm of protests, but her vocal cords might as well have been carved from stone. She felt the cold embrace of the river as they released her, the water filling her respiratory slits as the current pulled her down. This is how I die, she thought with bitter acceptance, discarded like waste. Liam Chen had been on Velkara Prime for exactly 47 days as part of the Human Velkari Cultural Exchange Program. He'd spent most of that time trying to understand why his Velkari colleagues at the xenobiology lab treated certain topics with such rigid discomfort. He was jogging along the riverside path when he saw them, a family group performing what looked like a ceremony. As a scientist, he'd learned not to interfere with cultural practices. But when he saw them throw what was clearly a living person into the rushing water, his body moved before his mind could object. What the... Liam didn't finish the sentence. He kicked off his shoes and dove. The Crimson River earned its name from the iron-rich sediment that gave it a rust-colored hue. Visibility was terrible. Liam's hands swept through the murky water until his fingers brushed against something, a shoulder, an arm. He grabbed hold and kicked toward the surface with every ounce of strength in his legs. Breaking the surface, gasping, Liam pulled the Velkari woman to the rocky shore. She was entirely limp, her silvery skin already taking on a bluish tinge. Her large dark eyes stared at him with an expression he couldn't read. Was it surprise? Fear? Gratitude? Hang on, Liam muttered, checking for breathing. The Velkari respiratory system was different from humans, but he'd studied the basics. He tilted her head, cleared her respiratory slits, and began compressions adapted for Velkari physiology. Behind him, he heard angry clicks and whistles, the family, shouting at him in their language. Liam's translator implant caught fragments. Interference? Tradition? No, right, I don't care about your tradition. Liam shouted back, not stopping his efforts. This is a person. Water suddenly expelled from the woman's slits. She was breathing. Her eyes locked onto his with an intensity that made him freeze. Then he noticed she wasn't moving. Not at all. Even as she breathed, even as awareness clearly shone in her eyes, her body remained completely still. Oh, Liam whispered, understanding flooding through him. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you couldn't. He stopped himself. Wait, that doesn't matter. You're still alive. You still want to live, right? The woman's eyes flickered in a pattern. One long blink, then 2 short ones. Liam didn't know if that meant yes in Velkari culture, but something in his gut told him he'd read her correctly. The next 3 hours were a bureaucratic nightmare. The Velkari authorities arrived, along with the human embassy staff. There were accusations of cultural violation, heated debates about sentient rights versus cultural autonomy, and enough diplomatic tension to fill a dozen reports. Liam sat beside the woman, Zarath. He'd learned her name was in the human embassy medical bay. His colleague, Dr. Lily Santos, had performed the examination with gentle efficiency. Complete paralysis below the 3rd cervical vertebrae equivalent, Lily said, reviewing the scans on her holographic display. For Velkari medicine, this is irreversible. She paused, meeting Liam's eyes with a slight smile. For human medicine?
We might have options. Zarath's eyes widened.
Lily pulled up a chair and sat beside her, speaking directly to her rather than about her, something Liam noticed the Velkari doctors had not done. We have neural bridge technology, Lily explained. Tiny implants that can bypass damaged neural pathways. We've used them on paralyzed humans for decades. The Velkari nervous system is remarkably similar to ours, different but similar enough that I think we could adapt the technology. Lily pulled out a simple pad and stylus. Can you move your eyes deliberately? Once for yes, twice for no. One blink. Would you consent to an experimental treatment? One blink. Immediate and emphatic. The surgery took 14 hours. Liam stayed in the waiting area the entire time, despite Lily ordering him to go sleep. He couldn't explain why this mattered so much to him. Maybe it was the look in Zareth's eyes when she'd realized someone saw her as more than a burden. Maybe it was his own anger at a culture that would throw away a thinking, feeling person because of physical limitations. When Lily finally emerged, exhausted but smiling, Liam jumped to his feet. The implants are in, she said. Now we wait. Her brain needs to learn how to use them to form new pathways. It could take days or weeks, and we don't know if... A crash came from the recovery room. They ran. Inside, Zareth had somehow knocked over an entire tray of medical instruments. Her arm, trembled in the air before falling back to her side. Tears streamed down her face as her fingers twitched. Over the next 3 weeks, the human embassy became Zareth's new home. Liam visited daily, watching as she progressed from finger twitches to grasping objects, from head turns to sitting up. Lily managed the medical aspects with careful precision, adjusting the implants and teaching Zareth's brain to communicate with her body again. The Velkhari government watched with what could only be described as shocked fascination. News of the human miracle spread across the planet. Other Velkhari with disabilities, those hidden away in shame, began appearing at the embassy, hoping for similar treatment. On the day Zareth took her first step, using parallel bars for support with Liam on one side and Lily on the other, her entire body shook with effort. She managed 3 steps before exhaustion claimed her, but she stood, and in standing she challenged everything her culture believed about worth and ability. Thank you, she whispered in thickly accented standard, the first words she'd spoken since the accident. You saw me, not Broken Blade, just me. Liam smiled, understanding the weight of those words. Humans have a saying too, he told her. We don't leave people behind. Ever. Epilogue. 6 months later, the Velkhari Council formally requested human assistance in establishing their first rehabilitation center. Zareth, now walking with minimal assistance, became its director. The ceremony by the Crimson River was quietly abolished, and Liam Chen, who'd only meant to go for a jog that day, became the unexpected architect of a cultural revolution. All because he'd seen a person drowning and done what any decent human would do. He'd jumped in.